Hi, my name is Paweł Spychalski, and if you live and fly drones and RC airplanes in European Union, I have a news for you. Over the last few years, a lot of countries, including the European Union, are trying to regulate the drone market. By the drones, I mean both drones, quadcopter, multi-rotor drones and aeroplanes. And a lot of countries, let's say, are finding their way around the problem. The European Union is, of course, not much different in this case. And for the last few years, there were discussions how the unified laws for the all EU countries should look like, and it looks like we already know, because on 11th of June 2019, the European Union published two documents that describe what an UAS, unmanned aerial ship, and how they divide into classes and how you can operate those UAVs, I prefer the name UAV to be honest, around all the countries that are part of the European Union. And starting from the June 2020, all the countries, country regulations should be compliant with the not global, European regulations. Some were saying that no, the rules will kill the hobby and we can no longer fly our models, our drones. What about commercial use of drones and stuff like that? Looks like that finally the anticipation for the verdict is over and we exactly know how it's gonna look like in a year. It is described in two documents. One is called 2019/945, which describes the ships, the drones, the aeroplanes, the UAVs, and 2019/947 that describe how you can operate them and what you can do with them. Today I took the liberty of spending around 2 hours getting through both of those documents. I'm not saying that I read them completely. I more or less skimmed over the most important part, and I have compiled how the drone regulations in the European Union will look like in a year. And the news is, it's not that bad. Really, honestly, it's not that bad. It's not end of the hobby. We will be still able to do what we are doing with some changes. Now, in the next few, probably up to 12, maybe 15 minutes, I will describe and translate from the legal, which nobody understands, to more human-friendly version of what the UAS is, how it's divided into classes, where our hobby fits into the market, and how we will be able to fly the things we either buy or build by ourselves. No, the European Union will not require you to register your drones. This is not true. What the European Union will tell you to do is that you will have to take the online course when you will learn about how to safely fly in the various conditions, and probably about the rules I will tell you in the rest of the video. And then you will have to take the online test. After the end of the test you will be scored, and if you passed you will get your certificate that you are a qualified drone UAS operator and you know more or less what you are doing, and you will be, at least you know what kind of shit you should not be doing. Of course, probably the whole process you will have to pay for this, but you will have to do it once for yourself, not for your vehicles. The first of the documents I mentioned, the 2019/945, describes and divides the drones and other hobby aeroplanes, not only hobby aeroplanes, remotely controlled unmanned vehicle, UASs, into categories, 5 categories and 1 extra. Those categories are: Category C0 is everything that weighs below 250. So it doesn't matter if this is an aeroplane, if this is a drone, whatever, if it weighs below 250, plus it has to have a limitation of not going above the 120 meters from where you took off, not the above sea level, not above the really ground level, but above the place when you started. And it is electric, maximum 24 volts direct current, and can not achieve more than 19 meters per second. It is qualified as the C0, commercial class 0. On top of that, it does not have to have any kind of a transponder. This is very important. No transponder on the C0 class. The second class is called C1. C1 class is limited to 900 grams all of weight. It cannot have a kinetic energy in case of impacting on someone, hitting someone in the head or something like that, above 80 joules. So also the speed and let's say the shape, aerodynamics of the thing, because the brick will have a lot of kinetic energy when falling down, cannot be higher than 80 joules. It cannot achieve more than 19 meters per second on the level flight. So let's say this is really reserved for the quadcopter drones, something like, let's say, Mavic class. It cannot go up above 120 meters of the altitude from the point where you took off, cannot be too loud, cannot be powered with anything more than 24 volts direct current. Also, it has to have, this is very important, it has to have a unique serial number given by the manufacturer of the thing, unique by the manufacturer, not by you or the authority, and has to have the transponder that will transmit your ID of the pilot, because if you're flying C1, you already have to be registered and pass the online test I mentioned before. So it will be passing by the transponder the serial number of the drone, your ID, and some additional information that can be picked by anything besides you. Okay, so this is more or less the equivalent of the Mavic Air, probably what we have currently on the market. Then, not so fast. Also, it has to have a system of the space awareness. That means it has to have a map of how everything around you is structured, and cannot go into restricted zones, and it has to keep the elevation of the ground in mind, in mind when flying and stuff like that. And kind of obvious, but still, it has to have the battery monitoring, so the pilot will be able to safely land when the battery is getting low. Okay, this is how the class C1 looks like. Now we have the class C2. The C2 class is limited to 4 kilograms. One more time, maximum 120 meters of the altitude. It has to have the secure link between the UAS and you, so nobody else can go between and steal your drone for you. So this is probably why the FrSky is going with the Access, because Access is, let's say, encoded protocol. It also cannot be too loud, maximum 24 volts direct current. It has to have the transponder. It has to have position lights. So the C2 is already with position lights, so it is easily visible out in the sky. And one more time, it has to have the space awareness software that will monitor when you can fly and when you cannot fly, are there any obstacles and stuff like that. Next class is the C3. C3 class is one more time bigger and heavier, because C3 is limited to 25 kilograms. If it's not inside of the C2, then it's C3, and maximum 3 meters of the span, the longest dimension. So let's say the wingspan of the C3 aeroplane, probably in this case, is maximum 3 meters. One more time, not more than 120 meters. It has to have the failsafe configured that will land or go back to home when the link is lost. This is the first case on the classes where it has to have the failsafe configured. One more time, 24 volts, not too loud, transponder, battery monitoring, position lights, and this is the only class that can do autonomous flight, that it can go waypoints, do some mapping and stuff like that. So all the, let's say, industrial heavy semi-industrial things that you can use, for example, for the geographical service, survey, or doing waypoints of any kind, will probably have to go into the C3 class. C4. C4 is, again, maximum of 25 kilograms. It cannot do autonomous flight, but there is no restriction of the transponder and stuff like that. This means that C4 is more or less every model, the bigger model airplane that you can buy somewhere, and you can start using this. This is, let's say, one of the most liberal classes, the C4, but it also means it can be operated in the most safe way, but this will follow in a minute. But what about your, let's say, do-it-yourself airplane model that you build a hull somewhere with the phone equipped with everything, or you build a drone by yourself? How does it fit? How do you assign this to a C0 to C4 class? You don't. Because if you have built yourself a drone, you have constructed this or bought equipment, pieces together, assembled everything, put your own flight controller, it does not apply. The C0 to C4 is only relevant if you have bought a ready-made airplane or drone. If you build it yourself, then it's do-it-yourself, and the C0 to C4 classification does not apply. This results of how you can fly this thing, but this will, like I said, follow. Now, another question: what happens with the current DJI Phantom, DJI Mavic owners? Will DJI tell you that, okay, this Mavic 4 Pro night vision, whatever, is right now classified as the C2 or C4 or C1? Doesn't matter. No. If you have bought and started using your drone or airplane before June 2020, you will not get your classification from C0 to C4. You will still be able to use it, but only in something that's called OpenA3, but I will follow on the topic in a slight moment. While the first document I mentioned, 2019/945, describes the aeroplanes and drones, the second document, 2019/947, describe how you can use your drone depending on what you are doing and which class of the commercial ready-made drone you have. You bought, or that legacy Phantom or Mavic that you are using, that you got yourself, or actually was introduced to the market before the June 2020. And this document works on something that's called category of operation, and it has three main categories and some additional subdivisions of one of them. The first category is open. Category open is used when you are flying do-it-yourself stuff because you've built it, or it's C0 to C4, because why not? It weighs below 25 kilograms, but one more time, this depends on, because if this is C0 to C4, then 25 kilograms is still the max. It's always visual line of sight, no behind visual line of sight operations are allowed inside of the open category. And of course, it cannot go higher than 120 meters above the place you started. Next group is called the specific. Specific category of operations applies anytime that open category, one of the conditions of flying inside of the open category is not met. So, for example, if you want to fly behind visual line of sight, it is automatically the specific category. Or, for example, when you want to go above 120 meters, it's again the specific category. The specific category differs from the open category that for the specific you have to have an agreement from the authorities. Authorities, your local authorities, have to agree that you can do this kind of operation in this period of time there and there, and you give them your plan, you give them danger assessment, and they say, yeah, you can do it, or no, you cannot do it. Or, this is also very important, or you either have something that's called AUC certificate, or you are a member of a flying club or any other flying organization that got the specific permission, the specific operation class permission, and it's sharing its permission with its members. So if you got yourself an LUC, then more or less the authorities assume that you more or less know what you are doing and you can approve your own operations flights, or that the flying club is saying that, okay, my members are really like well educated, they are not doing stupid stuff and we can trust them. Of course, this also means that the flying club takes the responsibility, and by the text of the document, it has to prohibit the cases when the members of the club are going outside of the specific operation agreement they got from the authorities. Unfortunately, we do not know much about the LUC certificate, so we really have no idea how it's gonna be looking like and who will be getting that. I know that, for example, if Poland, if anyone has something that called UAVO, the local authorities are trying to automatically convert this into LUC, but this is not decided yet. We still more or less have around 1 year until the regulations will take place, so probably the local authorities will, let's say, have to decide how it's gonna look like in the end. The last category of operations is called certified. What's certified? Certifieds need approval from the authorities. The flying club or LUC will not help you, and this is very important. If you want to do anything that goes into the certified class, your UAS has to be certified and registered. You cannot just buy something. No, you have to have the certification of your certified device, because this is for the most, let's say, dangerous situation. For example, when you will be flying above people on any kind of the gathering, or for example, you'll be trying to transport people, or you will be transporting with your drones something that's dangerous, chemical, explosive, whatever. In the open category, you absolutely cannot do anything like that. This same goes for the specific, only certified, where certified pilots and the certified hardware will be able to do really, really dangerous stuff. But certified for me, like I want to fly over people, absolutely no. From the point of the RC hobby, the most important category is of course open, or if you are part of the flying club, may be specified if you really want to do, let's say, slightly more interesting stuff. This is why the open category is really what we will be doing in the Europe next year. And the open category is divided into 3 subcategories. The first of one is A1. Inside of the A1 operations category, you cannot fly above gatherings of people. You cannot fly above crowds. You cannot fly above people on the concert, on anything like that. This also means that you are, let's say, allowed to fly over a single uninvolved person. What's an uninvolved person? Uninvolved person is just you're flying somewhere, someone crosses, and let's say accidentally you fly over the uninvolved person. But even then you have to avoid those kind of situations, and you have to, let's say, move as soon as away from the person, not to bring any danger to it. But this says about uninvolved person. If the person is involved voluntarily and it says, yes, I want to stand here because this is what I'm doing, then no regulations. You can just fly over those people, over this person, because this person said that, okay, you can fly above me. Makes sense? Makes sense. Who can fly inside using the A1 specification? Everything that's do-it-yourself and weighs below 250 grams, or is C0 or C1 class, but then you have to take this registration online course and online test to test to say that yes, I know what I'm doing and I'm more or less not a moron doing something very stupid. So all the toys, all the Mavics, or actually not the Mavics, but something that will come after Mavic, it is up to C1 class, will be allowed to from time to time fly over single persons in the A1 operations category. A2 on the other hand is limited only to the EASAs from the C2 category. And in this operations class, you cannot go closer than 30 meters that uninvolved person, 5 meters in some special cases, but let's say in the normal operations 30 meters. You cannot go closer than 20 meters from uninvolved person, and that more or less all. Of course, if the person is involved in any kind in the operation, then there is no restriction. The last category in the open is A3. A3 is probably everything that we as the hobby pilots, drone and airplanes builders will be flying in after June 2020. Because, let me quote something that the document 947 states. A3 can be conducted in an area where the remote pilot reasonably expects that no uninvolved person will be endangered within the range where the unmanned aircraft is flown during the entire time of the UAS operations. That means, if you think that nobody will be going where you are flying, it's fine. What goes into this area that pilot can reasonably expect? Field, meadow, forest, lake, because there's no one usually on those areas. So if there are no people around and you do not expect really that someone will be like storming through this area, you can safely assume that no uninvolved person will be endangered. Of course, if the persons in the area are involved in any kind, voluntarily involved, of course, it's fine. You can fly over, let's say, those people. And you cannot fly over, no, you cannot fly over there. Sorry, I got this wrong. You cannot fly over people at all. I was wrong previously. But still, you can safely expect that no one will be in the area of the operation. So even an airfield, anything like meadow, forest, a field of crops or anything. Usually there is no one around there. Also, you cannot go closer than 150 meters from any urban areas, industrial compounds, and so on and so on and so on. And C3 and C4 and all do-it-yourselves above 250 grams are always flying under open A3. That means if you build something, it's above 2050 grams, you cannot fly over people as long as you expect that no person will be in this area where you are flying. Makes sense? I think that really makes sense. Okay, the next topic for today. This is one of the most structured videos I ever made because I've made a concept. Next. What will change in the futures? Because already the European Union said that some things might be changed in the future. Around October 2019, there will be a discussion about 2 additional open classes, operation of category classes, and they will be urban visual line of sight, when you will be allowed to fly above people or involving only active participants. So probably this is like, let's say that you have a I don't know who the active participant is. Let's say that other members of your flying club, and if they are there because they are involved in your flight, or you are, let's say, filming a movie and those people are part of the movie, then probably this applies. And something called the rural BVLOS. That means you will be able to perform beyond visual line, maybe, this is not decided yet, by the way, if you, okay, one more time, operation in sparsely populated areas using visual observers. That means if you are somewhere where no one usually is walking around, a meadow, a forest, a lake, a field of crops or whatever, and over there you will be able to fly behind visual line of sight with observers. Actually, that kind of makes sense. Let's see how it will finish in the end. Maybe there will be something good about this. Now, the timetable. The timetable for the introduction of the rules and making them a reality. The first phase will be in the June 2020. Starting from June 2020, we will be able to register the pilots for the open and the specific category. I'm ignoring the critical because I doubt any hobbies will be doing critical. And also this will be the moment when you will be able to register the EASA for the critical. And June 2022, the second date, is where all the flying clubs and other groups of people that are about flying and stuff will have certification for the specific category and will be able to share their specific category permissions with its members. I also mentioned that if you already own a DJI drone, you do not have to worry that much, even if your DJI drone does not have the official specification of C0 to C4. Because if you already have ready-made, built and manufactured by someone probably in China drone, and it weighs below 250 grams, then that means you can operate under the Open A1 operations of category of operations, and if it weighs above 250 grams and of course below 25 kilograms, then it automatically goes into A3. This means that European Union puts all the current drones together with all the do-it-yourself kits that you assembled yourself in your garage or something like that, because if it's below 250, it's the same as do-it-yourself below 250, and if it's above 250, then it is the same as the above 250 do-it-yourself. To think about it, for the European Union, all the DJI drones are do-it-yourselves. Okay, so the bottom line. The bottom line, is this the end of the hobby? No. To be honest, I think that these regulations actually make sense. They are not that bad. You have to take a test, but one more time, it makes sense. It makes sense because it's not really a bad thing to, let's say, have a certification that you more or less know what you are doing. Just take a look, I don't know, the driving license and stuff like that, and the drone, if it falls over, people can do some, especially heavy drone, can do some serious damage, so it's not that bad. I doubt the test will be something very, very hard, and probably I will be one of the first who will take the course and the test, because this will be a nice paper saying that more or less I know what's happening. I doubt I will ever really have to use it. It's not that the police will come storming in the place when usually flying and show me your certificate, show me your certificate. This will rather never happen, but still I will be, let's say, doing it legal, using the do-it-yourself in the Open A3 category without more or less any problems. Okay, the FPV is something, let's say, problematic, but if I'm flying with a friend, he can say that he's a spotter, right? Right. Also, it's absolutely not true that we have to register the drones. It goes on only the critical, the heaviest, the most important stuff. For example, carrying people or some dangerous materials, or flying over people, or flying into restricted airspaces and stuff like that. We'll actually have to meet all the regulations for the regular airplanes doing the same kind of a crap. And I really honestly doubt that anyone in the RC hobby will be doing anything ever on the critical, because we usually, it's a hobby. It's a hobby, we do not do a critical stuff. So, yeah, it's not that bad. It's not that bad, it's not changing much. It really makes sense, because it nicely separates what you built in your garage on your bench from what you got in the shop. Of course, it's always a question how it will be executed. And if, for example, someone who just went to a shop and got himself something from the DJI will even know that he has to take the online course, but this is, let's say, something to be done on the country level after June 2020, so we will see. The hobby is not dead, the hobby is fine, only you will have to learn something before you start flying, and to be honest, it's not really all that bad. Okay, that's all for today. I think that was kind of interesting video for everyone in the European Union. So please thumbs up, please subscribe. There might be slightly more legal stuff on the channel in the reasonable future. Also, take a look into the links in the description. I want to thank all my Patreon supporters for the great support they are giving me for the last year. A lot of projects I'm doing, and also, let's say this video is thanks to the motivation from my Patreon supporters they are giving me. So thank you very much. Until the next one. Bye bye.